Hey everyone and welcome! Have you ever thought about our government being like a giant team? Well, it totally is. It's a team with three main parts, and each part has a super important job to do. So today, let's meet the whole team.
So let's start with a big question. Think about it. When you play a game, or even in your classroom, there are rules, right? Somebody has to make them. But who makes the really big rules, the laws, for our entire country? Let's find out. First up on our government team, we have the official rule makers. Their whole job is to think about, talk about, and create the laws that everybody follows.
Okay, so their official, kind of fancy name is the legislative branch. Whoa, that's a mouthful, right? But legislative is just a big word that means lawmaking. So from now on, when you hear legislative, I just want you to think laws. Simple as that.
Now, this lawmaking team has a special name, Congress. And what's really cool is that Congress is actually split into two smaller teams that have to work together. You've got the Senate, and you've got the House of Representatives. They're like two puzzle pieces that have to fit together to get anything done.
So what do they actually do? Well, they debate what's fair for everybody in all the states. They talk. A lot. And then they write and vote on new laws. It's a huge job, and they're supposed to be the voice for people just like you and your family.
All right, it's time for our first pause. If you've got a diagram with you, can you find the part that says legislative branch? Awesome! Go ahead and write down that its main job is to make the laws. You can hit pause right now and press play whenever you're ready.
Okay, we're back. So, we have the laws, but what good is a rule if nobody makes sure it's actually being followed? Well, that brings us to the second part of our government team, the rule enforcers.
The official name for this branch is the executive branch. You know, if the legislative branch makes the laws, you can think of the executive branch as the ones who do the laws. They're the action takers.
And who leads this team of action takers? You probably know this one. This branch is led by the President of the United States, and right alongside them, the Vice President. They're pretty much the captains of this team.
So what's their job, exactly? Well, the executive branch's main goal is to carry out and enforce all those laws that Congress passes. They also work hard to make sure our country is secure and that everything is running smoothly, day in and day out.
You guessed it, time to pause again. Can you find the executive branch on your diagram? Right next to it, can you write down who leads this team? That's right, the President. Go ahead and pause here to get that written down.
Fantastic job! So, we've met the rule makers and the rule enforcers. But what happens if people disagree about what a rule means? Or what if a new law just seems unfair? Well, you need a referee, right? An umpire. So, let's meet the rule umpires.
And the official name for our government's umpires is the judicial branch. The word judicial sounds a lot like judge, doesn't it? Well, that's because this branch is all about judges and justice, which really just means fairness for everyone.
The judicial branch is made up of judges and courts all over the country, but the highest court in the land, sort of like the head umpires, is the Supreme Court. It's led by 9 judges that we call justices.
So, the judicial branch interprets the laws. That means they explain what a law really means and decide if it follows our country's most important rulebook, the Constitution. They're there to protect everyone's rights and make sure everything is fair.
Okay, one last pause. Can you find the judicial branch on your diagram, and can you write down its main job? It's to interpret the laws and make sure they are fair. Go ahead and jot that down.
Great job, everyone! You've now met all 3 branches of the U.S. government. But here is the most important part of all. They don't work alone. They absolutely have to work together as a team.
I love this line because it says everything so perfectly. The legislative, executive, and judicial branches all work hand in hand. They are separate, yes, but they're also totally connected and have to rely on each other. And here's a great example of that teamwork. To make a law, first, the legislative branch writes a bill. Then, it goes to the executive branch, the president, to get signed. If it's signed, poof, it becomes a law. And then later, if there's any question about that law, the judicial branch can step in to make sure it's fair. See? Teamwork? You see, this whole system creates something really important: balance. Each branch has its own special powers, but they also check on each other to make sure no one branch becomes too powerful. It's a system of checks and balances, and it's what keeps our government strong and fair for everyone.
And that brings us to our final big thought. Now that you know the whole team, how do you think the work they do, making laws, enforcing laws, and making sure everything's fair, how does that help you and your family and your neighborhood every single day? It's a big question, but it's a really important one. Thanks for exploring with me today,